So welcome back to Kevin's Garage. Now, if you've not seen the show before, this is my journey, a novice's journey to build a Factory 5 Roadster. And today we're going to be talking about the aluminum panels. So yes, for all my friends from the UK, it is aluminium, I know, but I'm in the US, so it's aluminum today. Now, first tool we're going to talk about today, the very important tool, is the Sharpie. So the first thing that I was certainly taught on when I went to the build school from Factory 5 was to ensure that there is a sufficient gap between the body that we've now taken off and all of the aluminum panels. And so it's a matter of just, going around the edge and tracing just with the edge of the Sharpie. And what you're looking for is around a 3/8 of an inch gap between the panel and the fiberglass body, so you've got then sufficient room to put all the finishing taping and stripping on top of the panels when you put the body on eventually. So here's just an example. This is just on the firewall. You can see I've just got a little bit to trim off here. It wasn't quite enough, so there wasn't too many in mine, maybe like 4 or 5 spots that were a little tight that I had to trim. So while we've got the Sharpie in hand, the next thing to do before you actually remove the panels is really to go down to each panel. You can just about see it here, and to mark off with the Sharpie where the aluminum panel meets the frame, particularly where you're going to be putting the holes for the rivets. So again, just another example, you can see what it sort of comes out like. You can see, just got a couple to drill in here, and there's a couple on the back as well. So that's pretty straightforward. So you can just do that for all of the panels before removing them. Then of course it's time to take off the panels. Pretty straightforward, just with a nut driver, obviously, or a little socket wrench. They all come off pretty easily. But before you do that, the best thing to do is to mark them all. Again, what I decided to do was to use, rather than actually writing on the panels, just to use some blue painter's tape. Just write what like the direction that the panel goes and where it is. This was the part of the driver's floor. And then take very specific photos of where all of the panels go. Because I know what I'm like. I'd come back and be going, okay, now does this fit on here or where? So particularly when you have panels that join, which one goes on top? If in doubt, make that as a note as well. Now, some people at this stage, as you're taking the panels off, decide that they're going to mark all the panels and put holes in all the panels. And the reason that they do that and drill them straight away is that they may be thinking about powder coating some of their panels, particularly those in the engine bay. And I think that's a great look. For me, I just didn't think on my first build as a novice that was the right approach. I certainly like the old school, I like the aluminum, so that's sort of a look I'm going for. But I also know that if it was something else for me to scratch, I definitely would be scratching it. So to make it a little simpler, I decided to not do that. All right, so you take off the panels, store them nice and neatly, lots of photos, and then you're clear as to what you need to do when you come to put those on at various stages of the build. All right, so now the next thing was actually going to start to reinstall some panels. So you start first with the F panels at the front of the car, which go just above the suspension and the steering rack. So my approach, and what Factory 5 recommends, is to mark up the panels first and mark up where you want the drill holes. So another tool that you have comes in the kit is you have a nice marker which gives you a 3-inch gap or a 2-inch gap. Of course, I looked at my panels. There was a couple of holes already drilled into the F panels where they were attached with the screws when the kit originally came. And of course, that didn't match with either the 2 or the 3-inch. So what I would say is, don't worry about that. Just find a gap somewhere in that 2 to 3-inch range which works for you, which looks neat, which will hold the panel securely in place, and then mark that. I certainly was able to use the tool to a degree. It certainly helped me, but I wasn't bound to it for this particular panel. So the way that I decided to do it was I marked them up and then I drilled the F panel first, of course using your 1/8 drill bits. Thing to remember about the 1/8 is that get plenty of these. I think I snapped one in the first 10 minutes. So they're not the strongest drill bits in the world. So just take your time, nice and patient, and get plenty in, and then things will work out fine. Another tool which was very valuable for me, I've used a center punch many times, but never like an automatic one. This was really helpful, saved me a lot of time. So I would certainly recommend that. So I drilled the panel first. Then what I did is once I drilled the panel, I then put the panel back and came up with another of my favorite tools, which I've never used before. This, of course, is the Cleco. I think that's the right way you say it. Pliers and the Clecos. This is an 1/8 of an inch. It helps if you've got it the right way around. Careful, you can tell I'm still learning. So it does show I really am a novice, which is fine. So I really like this tool, and it certainly helps to hold the panel in place. So I put the panel in place with a couple of Clecos, and then I marked where the rest through the drill holes where I was going to drill into the frame. Then I took the panel off and drilled the frame. Then I put the panel back on with the Clecos and thought, right, okay, is that now, does it fit? Can I start to rivet? And of course, no, I couldn't, because the holes weren't quite big enough. They weren't completely aligned. So my recommendation, what worked for me, is I then took the drill again and actually just with the Clecos in place, just re-drilled the holes, just made them a little bit bigger, and then my rivets went in really smoothly. And actually, I have to say, you know, we've got I think 1,500 to 2,000 to go. So I may get a little bit bored of the rivet tool by the end of it, but I actually thoroughly enjoyed that process, and it looked neat. It went in pretty straightforward as long as the holes were large enough. Another little tool, while we're talking about tools, which I found very valuable, is a little a deburring tool. So really nice, it nicely goes in the holes and takes off that little sort of sharpness, makes it a little bit neater. Of course, if you don't have one of those, you can use a little file as well, as I did on a number of processes. All right, on a number of occasions. All right, so I got my two F panels in. That was good. Again, another couple of little sort of tips. Be very careful. The welds on these chassis are very hard, so try and avoid those. And also remember that the panels are hand built and hand cut. So there might be a little bit of trimming that you need to do, and sometimes the panel doesn't quite match up completely. And I think I'll show you a picture of this. One of mine was really like halfway through the square of the chassis, so you just have to be careful as to where you're drilling that hole to make sure that you go through both the panel and the chassis. All right, so that was good. So that's it for the panels this week. So they're nice and neatly stored, and I clearly will be coming back to them over the course of the build. Right, so what's next? Well, actually, we're going to be bolting stuff to the car next. So next time we're going to be talking about the front suspension. So please join me for that. And if you like the video, if you like the content, then please like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on Kevin's Garage.